Kora kore to all our viewers around the globe. I am Toucy T, aka the Himba Queen, Tjijombo from Namibia. Today I am filling in the biggest shoes of Mr. Jermaine Nkrumah. That's their name? Yo, whenever we hear about it, we just smile. We're so like, it carries our pride as Africans. So I'll be your guest host on the Diaspora Weekly, your weekly show, and I am excited to be talking about one of the beautiful topics that we somehow as Africans want to shy away from, but not all of us, of course. That's why we're here to talk about it. Right after the break, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As promised, we have a special guest in the studio today, and as usual, Penom, which I've learned from the best, we allow our guests to introduce themselves. Doctor, please dive into it.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Nii Ocquaye Hammond. I'm a performance ethnographer and a traditionalist. Do you want to know more?
Oh, absolutely. We're so intrigued. The last word, traditionalist, but we'll get more into that. So may you please continue and just take us into the root of your academic endeavors.
Yeah, well, I did my PhD at the Institute of African Studies, University of Ghana, and my research area was performance, relationships, and psychosocial support. Now, when you talk about performance, you look at performance in the broad sense of the word. So it includes rituals, ceremonies, games, and everything. But for the purpose of my study, my research, I looked at the performances that we have, the rituals, the ceremonies, and how they provided psychosocial support to Africans, to our people. Then let me say that, like, there's this Erik Erikson created the theory of psychosocial support, where he classifies, he puts down 8 stages of human development from a baby to adulthood, and all these stages have the human being goes through a certain crisis, and they need psychosocial support in order to overcome the crisis and be ready for the next stage. So a child needs safety, food from the mother and everything, learns how to put on the pants and tell when he wants to go. And then the next stage, so you are old. So you get into your 60s, and then you start asking yourself another crisis, has my life been worthwhile, and things like that. So these are all there. Now, Erik Erikson's work is a bit limiting because we have things that happen to us that Erikson did not treat.
Sorry, this Erikson, is it one of us?
No, he's a European,
a Caucasian.
A Caucasian. He studied. He created his theories on psychosocial support based on this Sigmund Freud's work on sexual development.
Okay, and since you actually mentioned him, after doing his research, or studying about his research, is it something that you actually agree with, or do you feel like he could have done something different?
It is his work was a bit limited. They tried to look at the the universal developments of human being and what they go through.
Oh, okay.
But no one culture can do all that.
Okay.
Because meaning making and knowledge and meaning making is relative to various cultures. You know, so I realized, for example, that we had things here that they didn't have. For example, we have the rites of passage for boys, for girls, and we have other things like when your husband passes on or your wife passes on, there are rituals that you do, which makes sense to
totally
it.
different,
Exactly.
depending on each tribe, how they practice it. Right.
Exactly. Well, we try to avoid the word tribe now. We talk about ethnic groups or ethnicities, because the word tribe is also one of the words that Europeans used to
divide us.
Not just divide us, to denigrate our existence, who we are.
Right.
You know, so
right.
They say, oh, that's a tribe. Oh, that's a chief. That is a king. No, we know our leaders. I would rather use our traditional leaders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great.
So that has to do with my work. Actually, I did my research was based in Accra, Gamashi, Accra Central. The Ga people, where there are ceremonies and rituals for twins, and then they have the festival. Well, I was there for all those things, and when you watch the performance of these things, the significance of how we lived, the things that our ancestors has brought us, really becomes very important. You start looking at it with a different eye, and you become a different person. The more you become a different person, the more you understand your ancestors. And the more
we understand ourselves too.
Yes.
It's very important.
In fact, see it like this. Our ancestors gave us a heritage. They left a heritage for us. Now, there were great things they left for us, but these things have been demonized.
Absolutely.
By the hegemonic religions. And so there are people who don't want to talk about their ancestors. They think the ancestors were all heathen and so on and so forth. But what is heathen? In fact, we don't even know who an ancestor is. So the big question is, I am sure our viewers will also like to know, who is an ancestor? They should ask themselves, what do I know about my ancestors? What is an ancestor?
It's very, very important. I think it's something that we take for granted. When you look at a lot of African Americans trying to find their roots, taking their DNA is to find who you are.
Yeah.
The moment you know who you are, at least you'll be able to live as a better human being. And now you said that you're an ethnographer and a traditionalist.
Yeah.
May you please differentiate the two for our viewers?
Okay, now ethnography is purely a way of doing research. So you go and join a group of people, you live among them, and you study their ways of life, you study their knowledge system, you study how they make sense of their lives. So your research really comes to confirm what they do. You talk about what they do, their realities. It is not what you thought or what you hold universal. No, you study them as they are and the things that they believe in, their knowledge system. That is an ethnographer. Now, a traditionalist, I will conceptualize a traditionalist as someone who is busy learning the traditions of his people. And in that case, you cannot leave out the ancestors, the person's ancestors. And then I would like to talk about ancestors. Who are the ancestors?
Okay, we'll come to that.
Yeah.
But now, can you please break it down when you say traditionalist is the person that studies their people
and lives the truths or lives the knowledge systems of his ancestors. So I am a traditionalist. I call myself a traditionalist. I have realized sometimes that I talk to people who say we are also traditionalists and we share different views. But then what is it that you guys do differently from us? Yeah. Being a traditionalist and, us as non-traditionalist. Right, normal. Yeah, well, I'll tell you something. I did recently, I'm still doing some work on culture and traditions. And I met a few people I was in the Volta region, also in the Western region. And I asked a few people, I said, are you a traditionalist? And the first thing they said, no. I said, what are you? Said, I'm a Christian. I said, who is a traditionalist? They said, they worship idols and things like that. That's a big, how do you call it? That's a big prejudice, because I don't have an idol at home. I have never been to someone to do something for me, but I know the meanings of the use of idols. I know the knowledge systems that these so-called idol, I will call them heritage objects or spiritual objects. I know what they mean, and I'm even still studying them. So it is not. I don't think it is right for someone to say traditionalists are people who worship idols. It is not. It's not necessarily true.
It's very, very interesting. But when we come back, we will talk more about being a traditionalist and what else do you practice. Welcome back, and just join us so that you can learn more what is a traditionalist, just like I am keen to know, okay? So, do you practice voodoo as a traditionalist?
No, but I have respect for the voodoo knowledge system. In fact, I can worship with them. If I should come to any place where they have voodoo ceremonies, I can participate in it because I believe that it holds something that I find very valuable, the knowledge of our ancestors. And then now I would like to tell you what an ancestor is, because many people...
Before we get to that also,
okay.
Interestingly enough, right?
Yeah.
You said that you are keen to practice voodoo. And everybody thinks...
I didn't say I'm keen to practice voodoo.
Okay, you wouldn't mind if you find people...
I will join the ceremonies.
Right.
And I will do it, and I will feel happy and great to be with them.
And one of the myths about it is like, it's so taboo, and it's people who normally do ill stuff to other people. Yeah. Would you say that's true, or is just misunderstood?
It depends on who you are, because I have spoken to people who told me that they didn't like voodoo because voodoo is, it kills you when you do something wrong. They would rather prefer Christianity, where you have the chance to change and before you die, and then go to heaven and join Christ and all his followers and have fun forever. Well, that is what some people think. I don't think like that. In fact, I think that the morality, the traditional morality, not just voodoo, it could be Hebeso, it could be any other denomination, as I would prefer to call it. They have a stronger spirituality than what we see going on around in the name of Christianity and Christ and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah. If you, in the traditional system, you speak, we have this saying that words create things. In fact, the Bible itself says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Whatever you say, you create things with that. So, for example, if you join most of these traditional spiritual systems, denominations, some of them will have you swear an oath of morality, of staying true to the cause. And if you swear and you go against it, you better not, because there are consequences to that. And fortunately for some people in other religions, you don't have that. So if you say, I should die if I don't deliver on what I'm about to undertake, then you will die. They believe that. So,
it's quite interesting.
And people fear that too, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know, but I could be, I think you can guide me in the right path. Traditionalists as Africans, it's sort of labeled as a bad thing.
Yeah.
But when you look at the modern stuff like yoga, meditation, what's the difference between that and an African traditionalist?
Okay. Now, the African traditional system and spirituality had everything that we needed as a people, as a group of Africans. You know, we had our own psychological developments. We had our own, you know, in the West, in Europe, where I have lived for almost 40 years, when you have a problem, you go to a psychiatrist.
Right.
In our traditional system, when you have a problem, you go to your auntie, your mother, your uncle, or you go to the traditional priest. And these are able to, with our knowledge systems handed down to us by our ancestors, they are able to help us get out of that situation. So it is total. It's not just the worshiping part. No, we had a complete knowledge system, and we don't know it anymore. I illustrate it with something that happened before colonialism and after. When our people were carted away in the transatlantic chattel slavery, our ethnic nations stayed alive. They fought. Some of them even joined that evil trade in human souls. So they didn't break us down. They took a whole lot of us, destroyed a lot of things, but our spirit as a people kept standing. And then at one moment, because of the struggles against that, they realized that it was no more, it was not really good enough to, it was not profitable, let me put it that way, to continue that way. And then they came together with their propositions to work together, colonize us eventually, and Christianize us. And that put a wedge, a disconnect between us and our traditional, our ancestors. In fact, I have a story that might interest you. There's a man called Moffat. I've forgotten his first name. I believe it's British. And in Southern Africa, he translated the Bible. And the Bible, the word for demons, for ancestors, in some of the South African languages, maybe in Dimba too, Nimba, they translated ancestor as demons. So the Bible says, literally, that Bible says that Christians should not eat food that has been presented to demons. And the demons they are talking about is actually your ancestors. Now, why do I bring this thing up? I bring it up because our ancestors formed a very important, critical role in our daily lives, the traditional. What they did was that when I speak to any Ghanaians and I want to appear wise, I tell them that our ancestors said this. We say it in Twi, you know, and then you put the proverb that you want to use. It shows that you are knowledgeable in our ancestors. What most people do not realize is that we live for the approval of our ancestors. So using those words shows that you submit to the knowledge and things that they give you. Now, during colonial times, they really cut us off from our ancestors with religion. And so when we got together and we poured libation to remember our ancestors, to remember the great things they did, to speak with one voice, to help us emulate their bravery, their knowledge and everything, they tell us that that is bad. That when we pour the libation, we immediately invoke spirit. What spirits are we talking about?
Interestingly enough, you know, we had a very powerful ancestor. He was known as Kahime Mwanguvauva, and he was shot 11 bullets trying to kill him. And he told them, the only way you can kill me as the chief is when you shoot me right here on my forehead. And they did that. That's when he died, like on the 11th bullet. Yeah. And then he was the type of guy when he either, take normal milk, throw it up there, it comes back as sour milk. He would literally like stop the fire or a snake from biting someone. Yeah. He was just this guy that would see what's going to happen when people are coming to extra power,
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Okay.
And these people are very important in our lives. And now because of the Bible that came in, it took away from all of that.
Yeah.
And now from you being able, you who's been practicing it, how do we bring it back into the youth?
Okay. It is about, I think we need to show, expose the prejudices against our ancestors. They are not here. So anyone just takes a jab at them and says what our ancestors did that was bad without really understanding it. And other people just take it on. And there are people who have a vested interest in seeing our ancestors left out so that they can abuse us as a people and devalue our knowledge system. You know, you mentioned one ancestor. We have a lot of them, but again, who is an ancestor? That question is still very valid.
Can you please tell us?
I will tell you what an ancestor is. Many people think ancestors are those gone before us. So in the bloodline or as a nation, all those who went before us are our ancestors. It is not true. Our ancestors are those who went before us. It could be in the family, it could be in the ethnic nation, it could be in the wider kingdom, who contributed great things for our lives and our progress. So an ancestor is such a person. Before you can appreciate that, you need to understand that our ancestors lived not with the heaven in mind. They lived to be remembered. In fact, eternity, one of the definitions of eternity in the traditional African traditional system is to be remembered every time. So, if you have done great things for your people, you'll be remembered. There are people who die and they are forgotten, and we want to forget them. And that is the real death. Real death is to be forgotten by your own people. And that is why when we get together, I can give you a parallel. The Bible says wherever the 2 or 3 people are gathered in his name, he will be with them. That's God. But when we gather 2 or 3 or more, and we pour libations in the name of our ancestors, their wisdom comes to us. We think of the greatness, their greatness, the great things they did. And so, when we pour libations and we mention them, so we don't mention all of them, but we mention all the great ones. And each and every one of us aspire to get to ancestorhood, which means that when we are buried, we have joined the ancestors. So when they are remembering them, and the great things that they did, they will remember us. And they will give that knowledge on to the next generation, and the next generation, and the next generation. You know?
But now, here's the thing to some of the viewers and myself. So are you saying some of us that has not done great things, we do not fit into the category of ancestors?
Let me put it this way. Those who did evil things will not be remembered when we are remembering our ancestors. So those who have gone
the evil done by another person?
I will explain something to you. The issue of ancestors, like I said in the beginning, meaning making is not universal. So in my ethnic nation, being an ancestor is very important for us. Was very important for me, is still very important as a traditionalist. Some people, it's no more interesting for them because they don't even want to know who their ancestor was. They don't know who they were because they believe that they will go to heaven after, and they will go to Christ, who happens to be somebody else's ancestor. But okay, we will leave it at that. So if you still believe in ancestorhood, then, and you aspire to give your best to the living so that you join your ancestors proudly for what you've been able to do for them, then you are a traditionalist. That's another definition of being a traditionalist. We live by what I call the ancestral charge, which is a very simple thing. It explains everything, but it is very simple too. It says that our ancestors left us legacies. The heritage they left for us are for us, and we should use it for our benefit. If need be, improve upon it and ensure that we leave that to for those yet unborn, the children who are yet to come.
Okay.
So that is the ancestral structure. You have it, use it, keep it, don't destroy it, ensure that it's even better for the next generation.
Okay, so let me take you back and we mix the two words, which is ancestors and then
charge.
But then I actually wanted to say normally like the ancestors and then the people that came to do the research, which, they are called anthropologists. And they did the same thing in Namibia, where they've studied a case and said a head or the brains of a Herero, of a Mbandero, of a Himba people, they are smarter than the other ethnicities. Yeah. So let's, impose or whatever, have genocide on them because they're going to attack us. Yeah. And the gentleman or my great, uncle that I've mentioned was one of them. And when you look at it right now, we still have skulls of our ancestors in their museums. Yeah. As a traditionalist, what would be your calling to the various African leaders to be able to repatriate every skull that you can find of an African person in the diaspora?
Those who take their ancestors serious wouldn't want their ancestors' part or any part of their body left anywhere else, because they belong here among their people. So that's my message to everybody. I mean, there are nations on this earth who ensure that no one is left behind. That is in the principle of Ubuntu.
But they don't care. It has become now their, next generation just to come and say, oh, that's a skull of a Nama. That's a skull of a Herero. That's a skull of which tribe? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So what should we do as Africans to ensure that all the skulls across Africa is brought back to Africa?
It's repossession. Yes. We call it reparation. How do you call it?
That fancy word that Germany does not want to hear.
Reparations. They have to repair the damage that they did with enslavement of our people, with the cultural onslaught, that is the attacks on our culture and the destruction of our culture. They should leave us alone. So that they have to pay reparations, and we should repair ourselves too. And we should learn who we used to be and see the things we can use for ourselves now that we can leave for our children in the future.
Okay. I think you are really doing a marvelous job to proudly say, like, I'm a traditionalist. Is there an international association or, groups of traditionalists, renowned ones, that one can refer to, that we can learn from and tap into and advocate for all these reparations and stuff?
Well, when you talk about reparation, there's an organization for reparation in terms of chattel slavery, transatlantic chattel slavery, and the reparations to their descendants, not only in the diaspora, but also on the African continent. This is going on. But I would like to talk more about the healing that needs to be done. We need to let people understand that we have traditional things. When we talk about traditional, we have the spirituality, which is not necessarily everything, I'll give you an example. Some of my brothers and sisters who are Christians, and I'm not talking only about my siblings, they read the Bible and they see that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the fire, into the oven by Nebuchadnezzar, and they didn't get burnt. And then they say, hallelujah, God is great. And then we go to the northern Ghana, and we have the blacksmith's dance, and the chief blacksmith is dancing, and it lies in the fire. And you have bellows being fire,
real fire burning.
He is dancing and he's not getting burnt. And our people say, oh, that must be demonic. Wow. I mean, what are we talking about?
That's tradition right there.
What are we talking about? I don't know why the fire can't burn him. They have that is part of our knowledge system that I'm not initiated into it, so I don't know it. But he is there, he's not being burnt. And he wakes up at the end of it and goes home. And everybody sees and respects him and respects his power.
With no fire burns, nothing?
No fire burns. I have seen the videos, not only once, but various ones. So we have knowledge systems that, well, people will say that is demonic because they don't understand it. I don't say that is demonic.
Absolutely.
I say that is the power of our knowledge system. That is the power of our ancestors.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think, especially now, let's always, focus at the AU, African Union as leaders. How can we go about in unison, tapping into them being our leaders and say, please impose, let's just impose, whether if it's ancestry or if it's tradition, to be taught into schools to our kids?
This is an interesting one. You see, the AU is it's working now with, but you see, it's the same our leaders here who may or may not understand traditional values, who go there and represent us. We need people with the traditional knowledge to teach our people. We need to bring a counter narrative, so that we tell stories that are originally ours. So that our people start becoming proud of who they are. I having been abroad for a very long time, I can tell you that the people of African descent abroad, most of them are more interested in their ancestors than we living on the continent now. Fortunately, that is changing a bit. But the moment we get to know who we are and who our ancestors are, we will be able to talk to ourselves in a different way, That is what we have to do. There must be a cultural change. There must be, we need to give our own people things of our own for them to realize that the prejudices that they hold against their ancestors are totally not right. I spoke to a priest, an interview about the ancestors, and he said, well, I like most of the things they gave us, but some of them, they brought bad things like voodoo to the house and things like that. What are you talking
your thoughts.
about?
We would be talking about the voodoo situation because you know it better than all of us. Thank you so much for still watching Diaspora Weekly. We're talking about a very interesting topic, tradition, culture, tradition, ancestry. It's very important. We're still going to dive more into it right after the break, so don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Welcome back and thanks for watching Diaspora Weekly. I'm your guest host, Toucy, aka Himba Queen from Namibia, or Tjijombo, sitting in for Mr. Jermaine Nkrumah. Yes. Let's continue our conversation. We left it off with the voodoo topic, with you and the priest. Now, many have said, okay, they send missionaries to Africa to come and educate us about the Bible. Do you believe in God?
I don't know what you mean by God, but I believe...
The one of Christianity.
No. If you ask me that, I cannot believe that there is a God living in a place called heaven, where when we die, we'll go and join him and his son, no wife, and with all the angels. And I don't know whether we'll be walking on streets of gold, if makes sense to anyone. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not trying to
diminish or discriminate?
No.
Just saying
I'm
your
just
truth.
saying that it doesn't make sense to me anymore. I believe that I'm here, and that because I'm here points to someone who made me. The first line with my God is my father and my mother. and they connect straight, and all the things we see around us connect back to maybe a beginning. But that is not even very important for me. I believe that there is a beginning, someone who brought, or something that brought that beginning into process. I said in the beginning again that meaning making doesn't have to be universal. So if we venerate our ancestors because they are the line between the Creator and us, I think that is in order.
So that's the God that you believe in, is the ancestors? Just to be...
The ancestors are no gods.
Okay, so who's the God that you believe in?
The source of everything.
What is that source?
I don't know.
Okay.
There is a limitation to what we can know.
I respect that.
There is a limitation to what we can know. Otherwise, I could have, when I was young, I used to think that it is the Christian God who created me and he is living in heaven. Heaven doesn't make sense to me anymore, unfortunately or fortunately. I am pretty at ease knowing that I have to give my best to the living and ensure that those who come can have a place. I am at peace knowing that I do my best to protect the environment, that the birds can have a place to eat, the animals, even the snakes can have a place to be.
Do you own a snake?
No, I don't.
Okay, we're good. We can continue. Yeah. So wrapping up, we spoke about the AU.
Yeah.
How do we empower the next generation for them to understand where they come from?
Yeah.
How important is tradition? How important is ancestry?
Yeah. I spoke about to provide counter narratives. So what do I mean by that? I mean, look at the children, they have to learn. And people who have to play a role in that are the artists, the performers, our priests, traditional priests. Even our Christian leaders can recognize the mistake they've made in the past and help our people to become proud of themselves. So our artists, aesthetic, our sense of aesthetics should change. Should change is a big word, but must include who we are. I mean, I feel sad to see my African sisters, black sisters, bleach themselves to cancer because they want to look white. I mean, not only the sisters, by the way, some of the brothers do it too. But with education, these things can be corrected. We need to know about our ancestors. We need to understand the knowledge systems we have. It is very difficult to finish all in 1 hour, but
to come to their defense, right? Okay, yeah. I'm not promoting bleaching.
Yeah.
I did not choose also to be this light. Yeah. I wish I was,
yeah.
chocolate, dark brown,
yeah.
but I came out the way that I did,
yeah.
thanks to probably the Germans that did whatever they did in,
Yeah.
Yes. But what I'm trying to say is that boils for me more into self-confidence and of who you are. If you do not know yourself and not accept yourself, you go to that length. Some of them will be saying, oh, why do we have weave on and wigs?
Yeah.
It's a certain look that I want to have. It's like a brand.
Yeah.
It's like I'm selling something to you, you know. Yeah. I'm Diaspora, Weekly show. This is the logo that I want.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how I want people to perceive me. But, you know.
When I talk about the aesthetics, I mean, when you talk about the Himba, when you see the mud, the clay that they used to, that is also something. Clay is natural. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it. I am saying that it's a pity they do it. That's for me. Because you are beautiful the way you are. And if it is lack of self-confidence, who you are, because that is what colonialism did to us. Very true. Very true. If you do that as a choice, and it doesn't come out of a sense of desperation, of inferiority, that is okay.
Then you're good. Okay.
But it is important to note also that Africa is the only continent where all the shades, the colors of humanity is accepted as African. So if an African is biracial, let me put it that way, and seems more white than black, there's no problem with that. If an African is black and uses creams that gives them cancer, whether a man or a woman, I feel sorry for them. Let me put it that way. And I would like a situation that we get to a situation where our people will be free from inferiority complex and they can wear their colors with pride.
Very true. I agree. Yeah. And like you said, like it's the only continent where everybody is accepted as an African. So holistically, we are known as sort of one ethnicity, which is called Africans.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you refer to it, very sadly for me, a white Caucasian is perceived as an American.
Yeah.
And then a black one or brown-skinned, they are known as African Americans to whatever else, black British, and then a British. And we think it's normal to live like that. And these are the kind of conversation that we would have loved to see our, you know, African presidents advocate for it. But every time somebody comes with that type of, you know, initiations, it's either the aid is taken away. And to my plea up to today, I would love to see Dr. Arikana Chiburi become the chairperson or chairlady of the African Union.
I agree with you.
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
She will bring in upon a lot of change.
She's a brilliant,
deputized by Professor Lumumba or even Dr. Umar Johnson. These are the type of people that speaks for us.
I can tell you something. The historic diaspora, that is those people of African descent in the diaspora, they are in close contact with the AU, and they have been able to chalk results like the right of return. I don't know whether you know that. The EU has declared that any body of African descent from the diaspora, historic diaspora, who wants to come to Africa must be allowed to settle anywhere on the African continent.
And Ghana has done a fantastic job.
Ghana have done a few great things for that. Nana Addo has given some, but we need to put everything in the law, and we need to respect, even Africans on the continent need to respect the fact that African Americans and other who came from the historic diaspora have a right, just as us, to walk this continent, contribute their bit to this continent, and help us get to where we can get as a proud people, a proud Africa.
Every time we are being told that we have this self-black hate, and we've seen xenophobia in South Africa, you know, as a Namibian, when you go to Ghana, you need to obtain a visa, which we would have loved to see a borderless, you know, visa-free Africa. What would you say to that? Because we need to fix the core and the root of the problem before we come to the traditionalist and ancestry.
The Africa used to be borderless, but it had limitations. One was the language. So if you belong to a certain ethnic nation, you stayed within your nation. There are situations where you move to other nations, but when you come into another nation, there are courses you have to go through. Now, that was broken, and we were chunked together into these new nations that we're now dealing with. Our problem now is that there are so many socio-economic and political problems that if you open the borders just like that, that would not be right. Let me give you an example. If you go to Europe and you go to any country, when you enter the airport, you go through process because you enter the community. And then when you enter the community, you are still not there. You have to report to the city council where you are registered that you are in that country, what you do, the address and everything. Now, if we do that for Africa, that people from Ghana can go to Nigeria, but immediately register that you live here and this is what you do, then the whole Africa can be opened. That is there. So the borders are now serving a certain purpose. And I agree with you that we have to break down the barriers. But if we do not,
we need to put the system in place.
Accountability of who we where we start, who we are, what are we bringing? Because some of us have been destroyed by colonialism and the influences of colonialism. So we need to know where somebody is to be able to help that person so that we can also click, because rights come with responsibility. So you cannot just go and live somewhere and do what you like. So these are the things. Traditionally, our rulers and the youth of the various ethnic spaces had an eye on these things. Now we don't have it anymore. Our policemen are trying to fulfill that roles, but we can all attest to the fact that it's very difficult for them. So when we have put these things in place, so somebody who comes from Burkina Faso comes to live at East Legon, registers, we know where it is okay. She can walk everywhere. He can walk everywhere. But so long as we don't know, and there are bad people among us walking
just like
around,
everywhere else in the world.
Just like everywhere else. You know, so we need to put certain things in place before we can say borders open. Totally, freely. Because that is what we used to be. There are limitations in the traditional, and it was good. No one was left behind.
But then, you know, the interesting thing is like, they would come back in a form of investors.
Yeah.
But to bring that system, because I remember going to Germany, Luxembourg, France. I ended up in Belgium on the train in the same day.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
But if I had to travel to Liberia, it was.
Yeah.
So I had to stop Johannesburg, Accra, Ghana, Togo, Lomo, Cameroon, Nigeria. Then I go to Monrovia.
Yeah.
And that is very sad.
Yeah.
So what is the system that we can put in place?
Well,
ECOWAS system, it's not working. You've seen like a couple of countries are out.
Yeah.
So are they really out for a good reason? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
But what is the other countries waiting for to join them and say, we've been colonized by France for so long?
Yeah.
I think I remember a female Italy prime minister who said the reason why we're having a lot of immigrants is because of what you are doing to these African countries.
That is true.
But all the rest of the African leaders, up to now, they are quiet regarding that.
It is sad that our leaders are behaving this way, because we know that there are Ghanaians in the Middle East who are having tough times. We know that there are Ghanaians in Libya being treated as slaves.
Please don't say it.
And these countries have their embassies
Oman
here.
is another one.
Oman.
Oh my God.
They have their embassies here. And these are the things.
We allow them to still stay.
These are the engagements we need to have with them. They're Lebanese, treating Ghanaians bad in Lebanon also. They are having a bad time there themselves, but they are treating our people bad. Our people are leaving the continent, getting through the desert. If you survive, you go through the Mediterranean. If you survive, they throw you back into the Mediterranean to die. So these are things that our leaders need to talk about. We don't seem to be serious enough, or we don't seem to be aware enough, or we don't seem to love our people enough to engage Europe, to engage the Arabs, to engage any other party about our own people.
Very true, very true.
That is what our leaders must do. Our leaders some of them don't seem to have any sense of culture, cultural identity. I mean, we had a political system.
Anyway, I was actually proud of Malawi, watching on YouTube how the Malawian government stood up against Oman.
Yeah.
Because we had the same situation in Namibia.
Yeah.
I said, you can call me a nobody.
Yeah.
But one thing for sure, be rest assured, I'm an activist.
Yeah.
I don't have any family members in Oman.
Yeah.
But the kind of, cases that we are getting of these young women being raped and passports confiscated and all kinds of stuff, But the Malawian government took it upon themselves, and they even sent authorities to go to Oman.
Yeah.
And when we came to our people, they were saying, if you are not on an official mission, there's nothing that we can do.
Yeah.
Why is it that there's nothing that you can do if you are government to government? Go talk and make a difference. Let our people get better treatment. Like you're saying in Liberia, what is happening, Libya, happening right now with the Ghanaians and all kinds of West Africans and, they're being enslaved and caved.
Our leaders are behaving like they can't see it. We, the people in the nation, seem to be sleeping. We have to create awareness of these things and ask our ministers to be responsible for the acts that they have to engage in. Because
let's campaign for Dr. Arikana. That's our only solution and hope that I see for the continent.
We are going
for real.
If I can do anything for her, I will do for her.
Me too. Literally take the bullet, don't kill her, kill me, like let she just come and lead this African continent.
We will all live. Those who they will fire the bullets, but it will not get to us.
Thank you.
In the name of our ancestors.
Amen. The amen is Christianity?
No, it's okay.
It's okay. Okay.
Amen means
I'm just making sure.
So shall it be.
Please, in your final words, what would you be your remark to all Africans that are watching and non-Africans the importance of ancestry, tradition, and culture, just to educate us on that?
Well, it is important to realize your identity. And if you don't know it, search for it again, because sometimes we take on certain identities, call ourselves certain names, go to those places where the names come from, and they treat you like garbage. So it is important to know yourself. Man, know thyself. That is, and then be proud of yourself. And then when you know yourself and you have your identity, you can have your right to your heritage, which your ancestors left for you. This is what I would like to end with.
Oh my goodness, it's been interesting. I think all of us, we have the love for the continent. When it comes to the continent, we all go, you know, full force and trying to make, you know, small changes that can lead to bigger changes. So it's been interesting. I've been, you know, feeling honored to sit in this hot seat of Mr. Jermaine Nkrumah as your guest host on Diaspora Weekly. I am your girl, Toucy. I had fun. I have learned a lot from you, Doctor. I'm so much appreciative. And I was also, you know, fascinated by you, like, you know, you studied part of, you know, in Europe, and then you came back to the continent, and then you also came to study about our cultures and traditions, which is something that you as young and old people should be able to emulate. Know who you are, be proud of your ethnicity. It's no longer called tribes. I was also warned about the word tribe, because then it demarcates us. So please go like, follow, and subscribe to our channels and be able to advocate for Africa. This is all we have. It's Africa. It's our motherland. Let's just make a better Africa for all of us and the next generation to come. Thank you so much for being in our company. We are forever blessed to have you as one of our viewers.